credible, researched information in a really light and easy to understand manner. Creating aha moments is what he does best. So Nathan is a naturopath, a nutritionist, and herbalist with 3 degrees. Yes, three degrees and 10 years of clinical experience. He practices with holistic doctors, psychologists, naturopaths, kinesiologists, and chiropractors. So Nathan is looking forward to bringing his wealth of knowledge to you tonight. He has summarised many of the common mistakes he sees his patients make so you can make better choices for you and your family. Now, we trust you'll get lots of value and enjoy this presentation tonight. It is 40 plus working hours of research done for your benefit. So once again, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Naturopath Nathan Davis.
Thank you very much for that amazing introduction, Lillian. I'm very passionate about educating and inspiring my patients so they can make better choices for themselves and their families. So I've summarized this as much as possible so you can get as much value as quick as possible. And you may even want to go back and pause the live at previous points to get more information from this particular slide that I've put on. But I'm going to allow other videos and presenters along the way to really compound what I've learned over the last decade and all the common mistakes people are making. And I've worked the last decade with a fantastic team of holistic practitioners. And I really want to help people not have to come and see practitioners like us because they've been able to make a change and step into the more preventative role in their health rather than waiting until there's a problem and then reacting to it. So my aim tonight is to run through these areas of health that I commonly find linked to many different conditions. And that's why people are coming in. And ideally, what you're going to learn is these areas here. All the information I've summarized into really cool infographics, pictures, very easy to understand concepts. I'm going to show you tests that you can do yourself at home to find out what your house is in terms of its toxicity level and how you can start to reduce those right away. And also what to look for to implement some of the suggestions and new research that I'm going to present you with tonight. You're also going to see some real life before and after photos of people that have implemented this kind of information. So what I didn't know that I now know, someone told me about this 4 or 5 years ago at least, and I just didn't have the time to really go into it to the level of detail that I usually go into it. So unfortunately, I dismissed it. And I really regret doing that because I can't think how many years that have gone by where I could have shared this with people. And it wasn't until I came across Professor Tyler LeBron, whose research really opened my eyes. And ever since I've been reading what he's been doing, it stopped me dead in my tracks. And ever since, I can't stop thinking about it or even learning about it. And it's really changed the way I practice. I'm so much now focused on preventing the toxic burden and people's environment in the first place, rather than waiting to react to it. So a lot of the conditions in the human body stem from free radical damage and inflammation. If you've never heard of free radicals before, picture cutting an apple open and then leaving it for hours or a day and look at how it oxidizes. That's the process of the apple cells becoming damaged. Now you can imagine our cell doing the exact same process through these kinds of free radicals. These aren't all of them, it's just some of them, and we're going to be talking about how we can reduce some of these free radicals. Now, wouldn't it be amazing just to do one thing, and that one thing per day can give you all of these benefits that are fighting against those free radicals doing us damage? Well, that one thing happens to be molecular hydrogen. And most of you are probably thinking about molecular who? Molecular hydrogen is not the same as regular hydrogen. It's a very small molecule that is one of the most powerful antioxidants and was really only recently discovered its therapeutic benefits in 2010. And then it took some years after that before the information started coming out to the scientific community, and it still really hasn't hit the general public just yet. Now, this slide you see took me many, many hours because for every condition that you see here, there's a therapeutic study, either based on human or an animal disease model, showing the potential and the therapeutic benefit of using molecular hydrogen for that condition. So if you have any of these or you see any of these, something can be done about it when using molecular hydrogen. So again, I explain to patients, would you rather wait until there's something seriously wrong and you rush to hospital for emergency care? And do you really want to be on pharmaceuticals lifelong? Some are needed, but there's many that you could even swap to a supplement. But even those, they're just Band-Aids. Some are correcting nutritional deficiencies, but we don't want to be relying upon them day after day, month after month, year after year, because they also cost us money as well, and we can be doing that through other methods. So what if you could drink this molecular hydrogen every day in clean, filtered water that can then enrich your life and take over some of these supplements and prevent many of the conditions or help assist with them that you've seen on the previous page? And so what is the hydrogen water actually doing? Well, there's three main benefits of hydrogen. The first one is acting as an amazing antioxidant. Now, this is different from many other antioxidants. You might think, well, is one antioxidant the same as another? We have a natural process in the body that requires a little bit of inflammation to initiate a healing response. You might relate to going to the gym and breaking down your muscle and building it up again, or getting a cut and your body sending white blood cells to the area to repair it. That needs a bit of free radicals and antioxidants to happen. And our body uses some free radicals to fight off bacteria, but we don't want this process to go on for too long. And so hydrogen can be very selective in which ones it chooses, only the very bad ones, the ones that we don't need for this natural process. And it can cross the blood-brain barrier. There's not many substances that can do that. And so for conditions like cognitive function, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, these are all brain-based. And you need a supplement or something to get through the blood-brain barrier to have a direct effect on those conditions. It's also an amazing anti-inflammatory in itself, upregulating our own antioxidants and acting as a very powerful antioxidant itself. It can also, once it's been in the body for an hour, continue the effects of the good work that it started for days and weeks to come through gene expression and upregulation. So why is this so effective compared to other antioxidants? One main thing is the size. Because it's so small, as you can see, 431 times smaller than coenzyme Q10. And that means it can get into very tight areas that usually these other antioxidants can't cross. Now, this screen really will be for the real tech people thinking, okay, how do we get hydrogen-rich water? How can we make it, and how does it work? But there's only a couple of things I actually want to point out on this screen. One, that when we make hydrogen-rich water, the byproduct is something called a hydroxide. And if you were to test that water with a pH probe or a pH litmus paper strip, you would find it's like 9, 9.5 or more on the pH scale. Now, don't confuse it like I initially did with alkaline water, because it's completely different. The alkaline water that you would find at a health food store or the supermarket in bottles, they have been able to make that alkaline through adding bicarbonates. Now, these may have been found in nature, but usually they are using synthetic bicarbonate minerals to increase the pH of the water. Usually they've done that as a marketing ploy because people think drinking alkaline water is healthy, or they've had to clean and sanitize the water so much and filter it that that process has made it acidic and they've had to artificially bring it back up. Well, this hydrogen water is alkalized, meaning the machine is able to use electricity and add electrons, much like a lightning strike hitting the lakes, and it's splitting the water and the oxygen apart, making hydrogen gas and hydroxide. And so that's really what I want you to take away from this picture. The other thing, some machines that make this water make two very special substances. One is called hypochlorous acid, the same substance our neutrophils, our white blood cells make in response to bacteria, so very good at sanitizing and killing germs and bacteria. The other thing it makes is sodium hydroxide, and that in very small amounts, along with the hydroxides and the hydrogen, acts as a surfactant and then a detergent to break down oils and fats. Now you're going to discover later how that can be used to remove pesticides and herbicides from our produce. So our antioxidants, these are the three main ones. And this also, the hydrogen is made in our body, but as we get older and our gut becomes damaged, we produce less of it. So when we're drinking molecular hydrogen water, we are topping up what we naturally should have produced, and then we're increasing it to the therapeutic amounts needed to start correcting some of our illnesses. As I said, it also increases our natural antioxidants, which are going to fight these bad free radicals every day. And then once the body has finished with hydrogen peroxide to fight bacteria, for example, it can then say, okay, you've done your job. Now you can basically be turned back to water and no longer provide your function, because if it was left, then it can then become bad. So it allows our natural process to happen and then shuts it off. So how effective is the hydrogen at doing that? Well, you saw those two antioxidants in the screen previously. Between 25 to 39% effect it has on those free antioxidants. Now that's massive. And when we look at the overall effect at reducing the oxidative stress, so the damage happening to our body, much like the apple cut in half, 33 to 43%. And this is just in 4 to 8 weeks. Now we're going to listen to Dr. McCullough interview Professor Tyler LeBron just to how the molecular hydrogen is working.
So isn't it amazing that the smallest molecule in the universe, it has no known biological toxicity, has also been shown to be useful in over 170 animal disease models?
It's 3 times more energy dense than gasoline, so that's why it's being looked at as an alternative energy source for fuel. It's what powers the sun and fusion and producing helium. This is the hydrogen we're talking about, and we're seeing it can also be therapeutic, effective, whether you inhale it, dissolve it in water and drink it, or other methods of its application. There's over 1,000 publications on molecular hydrogen, and they're suggesting that hydrogen has a therapeutic potential in over 170 different human and animal diseases. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it can be so many different diseases, because most drugs, there's like one disease, one organ, one target. Hydrogen, many organs, many targets. And in fact, hydrogen has been shown to be effective in essentially every organ of the human body. Hydrogen is selective in that it's only going to decrease or reduce those toxic radicals like the hydroxyl radical. You can drink the hydrogen water and it's gone. It's out of the system within an hour, but yet it has residual therapeutic protective effects that last for hours, days, and even weeks.
So that's what really blew me away when I started reading Professor LeBron's work, and he is one of the leading experts in hydrogen in the world. Other books of interest that you might want to pick up and read are these ones here. And they have chapters on these kinds of machines producing the hydrogen that have this amazing effect. Now, the one down the bottom, Dr. Hiromi Shinya, is a medical doctor in Japan. He co-invented the colonoscopy technique and developed himself the polyp removal technique. And he has thousands of patients with different kinds of colon diseases, that he uses this method of getting hydrogen into their body. And this is just an example of colon cancer or chronic constipation, other areas of the body. If you can imagine having the tissue on the left, and then 3 months later for these patients, rejuvenating that tissue on the right. So that's really what we want to happen for the entire body. And so for me, what you just saw was probably like 30 hours of research. And after doing all that, I was like, wow, hydrogen really is massive. And I need to be sharing this with as many people as possible. But now I also want to go back to what are some of the toxins in our environment and how we can reduce those further. And so toxins, really in the last couple of years, people's awareness has been stepped up in what's in our personal care products. You're now seeing even on the label, no SLS, no SLES, so sodium lauryl sulfates, PEG, propylene glycols. All these chemicals, you can see here some of the areas are really affecting our health. And there's a great publication called The Dirty Dozen, and that's the link down there, that you can go and look at and see what else is in my personal care, and then start aiming to replace them with natural, safe alternatives. And what you've effectively just done is remove a huge toxic burden by looking at what your family's putting in and on your body. We also need to look at toxins in our water, because really the water coming from the manufacturing plant and processing plant is designed to try and make it safely through the pipes without rusting and degrading them, so it can provide us with water. We need to be responsible in making sure from that point on we make it as healthy and clean as possible. So these are some of the compounds commonly found in our water supply that are not really good for us. Now, one of the alarming studies that I read, that they looked at the umbilical cord blood from pregnant women and found that 65% of them, 80% of the chemicals made its way into the baby. And so we are being born toxic. So immediately we need to be on the defensive removing these toxins. And wouldn't it be great if you taught your children this and they could straight away be preventative from as young as possible? So when they had children, we're stopping that being born toxic line. And that's really a big aim and passion of mine. So apart from the water containing the toxins, it's what's in our fruit and vegetables that's also a huge concern. Even organic produce, we might find in 20 years that they're like, oh, actually that chemical use that we thought was safe, not so safe. Well, we ideally want to remove all base of chemicals from our produce, and because they're held in an oil substance that doesn't wash off with the rain, we need to remove that from our vegetables with something very special. You can see all the chronic conditions associated with pesticides, the acute symptoms. And unfortunately, because of the size of children, yet they still eat quite a bit of food, and some of them more than adults, they're getting even more toxic exposure than most of us. Now, again, the research from making hydrogen water showed some machines are capable of being able to produce this water that not only disinfects, but removes the pesticides. And up to 30 minutes of soaking the produce, they found from 3 that they tested, the most common ones, up to 86% removal. 86% from soaking it, and a water you can convert from your own tap. You don't have to go buy a separate special machine to do that. You can make that from your tap water through the same machine that can make hydrogen water. And the amazing thing is, does not affect the nutritional value of the food when you do that. Bacteria and viruses, a lot of the active pathology really is a huge concern for anyone with chronic health, fatigue, fibromyalgia conditions, because our body, our immune system really struggles to get rid of them. And so we want to make sure, one, that we're not using harmful chemicals around our house that's killing everything, because our body needs to learn from bacteria to become stronger. But there is some form of bacteria and microbes, germs in total, that really we don't want to have around at all. You can see some of the more serious ones, and how by using this strong acidic water, we can in 5 seconds remove that. Even soaking meat in the water, if you're not sure how long that's been in the fridge, or whoops, left that out, or you're going camping, or you want to make sure that the chopping board is cleaned properly, this is a very special water that's able to sanitize that to commercial grade effects. Now, there's a really cool video that you're about to watch that can show you visually how we can remove some of those chemicals from our produce and also be using the household machine to produce sanitized water.
Your SD501 has other machine settings that make special waters that can help you go green and chemical-free in your home. The clean water setting has a neutral pH of 7 that's great for cooking and baby formula. The beauty water setting makes a water that is a pH of 6. It acts as a toner, balancing the pH of your skin to make a soft, beautiful appearance. The strong acidic water has a pH of 2.5. It acts as a disinfectant and can be used to replace all of your harmful household cleaners. It's also safe to use topically to replace hand sanitizer, mouthwash, and even teeth whitener. Okay, finally, let's take a look at the strong 11.5 alkaline water. It works as an emulsifier, it removes pesticides from your produce, it makes it taste healthier, and makes your produce last longer. These are not organic, right? And pesticides are oil-based because when it rains, they have to have the oil so the pesticides don't fall off. Well, the 11.5 is our strong alkaline Kangen water that's highly antioxidant, and it actually can remove all oils, which is why you can replace your laundry detergent with it and replace any kind of like degreaser for your stove or any kind of like cleaner like that. But here is my favorite part. So we're gonna wash these tomatoes with bottled water, or just say filtered water, right? Then we're going to wash these tomatoes with the 11.5 water. Oops, gonna make a mess. Okay. We actually have this proven on PubMed to remove between 80 to 95% of all pesticides from your produce. My favorite part is that not only does the produce taste better, because it's not have that filmy, gross, slimy pesticide taste, and the produce lasts about a week longer. So by the way, when you wash your produce, so any fruits and vegetables at home with tap water, the chlorine is actually being absorbed into your fruits and vegetables. Same with your shower. That's why we have a shower unit. Even bottled water or filtered water at home, the chemicals are being put into the produce, but the worst part is it's not pulling out the pesticides and really cleaning the produce like you would like it to. Where the 11.5 can actually penetrate all oil and emulsify it and break it down and pull out all those pesticides.
And that is not the end of it. Like, there's just so much you can do to remove toxins in your household, and we're going to start talking about more of that. Now, when it comes to, okay, what quality of water do I need to be drinking? The next video is going to be showing you the pH, and then the video after that, the ORP. So just a quick recap. pH, we are looking at the alkalized water, not alkaline. Alkalized water is going to have a negative potential, meaning it's going to be full of antioxidants, which is the hydrogen, to act as an antioxidant against oxidative stress. The more OH negative found in that solution, the higher it will read on a pH scale. But it's not the same as what you'll find in bottled water, because while the pH of this might be 9.5, for example, and have an ORP of -400, a 9.5 bottled alkaline water might have an ORP of positive 300, meaning it's oxidizing. So the next video is going to explain that further.
Everything we eat or drink is either alkalizing or acidifying on the body. Unfortunately, the majority of us consume foods and beverages that are sugar-laden, highly processed, leaving our bodies in a state of acidosis, which can lead to illness and accelerate the aging process. By restoring the body to an alkaline state, we can regain control of our health. Since our bodies are over 70% water, the best way to do this is by drinking water with a good amount of naturally occurring alkaline minerals. These are just pH drops like you would test your pool, or anything you're wanting to test the pH of a liquid. If you look at the pH chart, it's about a 4, and then typically pop and sports drinks are right in between a 3 and a 4 pH. When you got your Kangen, this is actually the 9.5 water, but the machine can make 8.5, 9, or 9.5 so that you don't detox too quickly. A fun little trick I want to show you guys is I pulled the Kangen water here. let's say you've been drinking bottled water for a long time, and you're like, okay, well, how long could it take for the water to kind of help my body? Well, I drink Kangen, drinking the Kangen water. But you guys, sports drinks and sodas are so acidic. It actually takes 32 glasses of Kangen water just to neutralize one soda. Check this out. Take the soda, take the Kangen. One sip.
Isn't that, and many of you probably think, oh, the occasional soft drink isn't too bad. It's bad. You can just see what happens just one sip of it. Now, it's not all about the pH when it comes to hydrogen water. Yes, natural alkaline minerals from a spring will have a natural pH, but the bottled water is not the same. If we could live near a stream and drink that directly, that's the best thing. If we want our water to be therapeutic, then we need to look at the next level, and that's what ORP is. So we're about to see how that works.
So how can a water be antioxidizing? Well, an antioxidant is a simple molecule capable of stopping the oxidation and deterioration of other molecules. Enagic's industry-leading Japanese technology uses electricity to separate the molecules in your water, leaving more antioxidizing molecules available to stop oxidation, inflammation, and the aging process in your body. This is an ORP meter, which literally measures a liquid's potential to reduce oxidation. The more positive the reading, the more oxidizing or inflammatory the liquid is. The more negative the reading, the more antioxidizing and anti-inflammatory a liquid is. We'll go to Propel. This is actually the same as vitamin water, Gatorade, Powerade, any sports drink. About 400s. Going up and down there. I got Sprite. We all kind of know that soda's bad for us. Diet sodas, by the way, and dark colored sodas are in the 500s. But Sprite is right around 436. And we got Kangen. And it's been sitting out a while, so that's pretty good for sitting out. That's negative 483. Right out of the tap, I get negative 800 sometimes.
Amanda's great. It's Amanda that you just saw. She's been doing this for years and using it and helping hundreds of people. And I guess what she meant was out of the tap, out of the machine's tap, the antioxidants are much stronger the quicker that it's used. So back to the chloride. You saw in the pesticides that when we're rinsing them with water, we're actually adding more chlorine to them because they're absorbing it from the water. And when we bathe in the water, studies are showing up to 64% of the chemicals in the water are going into us. And when we have a hot, long shower, our pores are wide open and the heat is helping us draw that in. So if you wouldn't drink it, you certainly wouldn't bathe in it, wash your hands in it, rinse your mouth with it either. Now, just keep this in mind. This is a DPD chlorine test. You can go to the pool store and buy the little tablets to do this yourself. The darker the pink, the more chloride that's in there. The less the pink or clear, indicating there's no chlorine. So just remember that chart for the next video coming up. When she was talking about a shower filter system, there's many shower filters that are great because they're going to remove a lot of the harmful chemicals. So you can just get to that point. But if you wanted to take a step further and know what it's feel like, you've been overseas, Europe or other countries where they have those natural springs like the ones in Japan, full of minerals, well, you can not only remove chemicals from your shower, but start to introduce minerals back into the body. Because when we're inhaling the fumes from our shower, it's up to 6 times more volatile when it's coming into our lungs. Chloroform is another chemical that's often, it causes many problems, and it's a contamination problem where it can enter your tanks or our water supplies. So this is the video that I did where I took tap water that hadn't been filtered. I then add the DPD chlorine tablet that, again, you can get from the pool store. And with the yellow one, I have put my hand in there. And then after 10-15 seconds, I'm going to remove my fingers, add in the other tablet to see if there's a level of chlorine. So now you can see that bubbling, but it's not turning pink like the other one did. So where'd that chlorine go? In my hand. That quick. So you can imagine how much you get in your body when you're showering, rinsing your mouth out, washing your hands, and rinsing your veggies. They're all being absorbed. Scary, huh? So water filters, I would say if you already have one, fantastic. You've done step one. You've removed some of these harmful chemicals found in our system, in our water supply. Now, depending on where you live, you might need more than one water filter, but the main one you'd at least want is something to remove fluoride. The next step is then turning that water, which has removed the contaminants, into being that alkalized, hydrogen-rich water, because unfortunately, water filters, they just cannot do that. Reverse osmosis, if you want to make a sterile water, that's what they're for. But unfortunately, there's just no long-term studies showing that that's what we need. And in fact, drinking reverse osmosis water has been shown by the World Health Organization to increase diuresis, which means dehydration by up to 20%, and deplete us of our potassium, sodium, calcium, chloride, and magnesium. And this is creating many different problems. You can, though, get an alkalizing cartridge to then add the minerals back in after you've removed them all. But the problem is you're only adding a couple of minerals back in, 2 or 3 probably, 4 at most. Now, these are not natural minerals found in our rivers and streams and glaciers. They're synthetic carbonates that are added back in to artificially increase the pH back up. Again, long term, we do not want to be drinking water full of carbonates, alkalizing our body through an alkaline. We want it to be alkalized. And so really reverse osmosis, as well as stripping a lot of the good things from our fruit and vegetables, they can't add in all those trace elements and natural minerals back into the water. If you were then to do the same test with an ORP meter, it would be positive, as in oxidizing, and it would have no hydrogen. So unfortunately, you don't want to rely upon reverse osmosis water unless you then have a machine that can then alkalize it and add hydrogen after it. So what do you look for when it comes to finding the right machine for you? There's a couple of things I took into consideration, because there was hydrogen machines out there and that's all they did, but they required only distilled water to make the hydrogen. And as I've just explained, there's not going to be any minerals in there. Sure, there'll be hydrogen in there, but you want the natural minerals as well, so our body doesn't become like a dehydrated state. We also want to make sure that the water ionizer, electrolytes reduced water, there's a few different names for it, is able to make those special types of water, the sodium hydroxide with the higher level of hydroxide ions and hydrogen, to remove the pesticides from the fruit and veggies. Just because a machine has a 11 pH doesn't mean it can remove those pesticides. A solution at 11 pH doesn't act as a surfactant. It needs those particular sodium hydroxides in there to do that. Now, also creating the 2.5, the disinfectant hypochlorous acid, there's not many machines out there that can do that also. And so we're overall looking for a toxic-free house and to be able to reduce that. So you want those two to be a part of the machine. Most of the machines will have some level of filter that will remove some of the contaminants, but you can always improve that by getting pre-filters. And we want to make sure that it has the highest level of hydrogen as possible, because again, we want to have a therapeutic effect. So now the next video is myself actually testing one of the machines I've got in terms of its high hydrogen concentration. It is sped up to make it quicker, so excuse the fast pace of my voice.
Okay, so we're going to do a hydrogen test today to find out the level of hydrogen in the K and K8 when we're using 9.5 pH water. So we can determine the flow rate, we're going to get it to the point of where it's going to say increase flow.
Increase flow.
And then we're going to go just above it. So what this reagent does is for every drop that goes in, which then turns clear, it's showing us 0.1 milligrams of hydrogen per litre. So we're going to start putting those in.
Now you'll have to excuse my camera woman because towards the end, she's so focused and amazed by how much hydrogen was in this water that the whole bottle wasn't exposed in the video. But you can see at the top, if you just focus on the top of the water in that cylinder, as long as it's returning back to clear, there's still hydrogen in there acting as an awesome antioxidant.
So the more that this machine can produce hydrogen to counteract these reagent drops, the hydrogen is acting like an antioxidant and reversing the oxidative damage. So sort of like if the blue drops were a bad oxidant damaging our body, this is how well the hydrogen in our body works as an antioxidant.
24. Wow. 25. 26. So what is that meaning now with 26 drops? 26.
So it's starting to lose its power to turn it,
27.
to quench it. So there, what number was that?
27.
So 27. So we're going to go back one to 26. And so it took 26 drops the hydrogen was able to counteract, which is 2.6 parts per million per litre of hydrogen. And that's what is the real amazing thing about the machine.
That is more, I can't really describe how impressive that is. That level of hydrogen for that machine is amazing. Studies show that anything really above 0.35 has a therapeutic effect. On average, they say at least 0.5. For most of the studies, they're going up to 1.5 for serious health conditions. So you really want something that can produce the highest level possible while having all the other benefits as well. So you can go back and look at this screen later. I won't go too much into it. But really some of the beneficial effects of having a company you can send the machine back to is that they can take apart the plates, which is what you're seeing here, and renew them back to brand new again. And that's going to allow you to have a machine to last for 10, 15, 20 years to continue to provide this higher level of hydrogen. Each of these points is something that I assessed, and you can speak to me directly about the more information on these. But this is just a visual of other companies I found using mesh screens, thinking they're doing the right thing, increasing the surface area, but they break down too quickly. And the size of the plates as well as the amount of them is what really matters. Most companies will advertise they have many plates, but look at the size of some of them. So this is the machine, one of the machines you saw in the videos, and look at the size of those plates compared to these ones. So it doesn't matter if a machine has more plates, you need the quality of the platinum to be medical grade, which many are not, and you need to have the decent power supply to run the electricity through the big plates and many of them to produce this high level of hydrogen as possible. You can see on these other ones, they just really, you can't compare them. And that's why they're cheaper. So again, you might find other companies out there. I have done a huge amount of research, and this was really the only company that I found that ticked all the boxes. Again, I won't go too much into this, but the company has many different options. Today I was talking about the K8, and I'll talk about the junior, the base model, and this is the one that you saw in the other video. A quick recap on just what we're looking for in a house to remove our toxins is being able to produce that 2.5 water to remove the sanitizing effects of bacteria, pesticides, bacteria and germs, I should say, not pesticides, and also being able to use that for like wound care on your table, replace all the cleaning chemicals, and really reduce, for some people, they're very toxic sensitive. You can now make water with hypochlorous acid. Again, just because you might be able to get 2.5 water doesn't mean it contains hypochlorous acid. Same with the 11.5. They're not all going to make that sodium hydroxide along with the high hydrogen and hydroxides to remove the pesticides and be able to degrease substances. A really cool test. If you ever see me in person, ask me to show you this with the machine. You can fill a glass up, one with tap water, one with 11.5, and you get sesame seed oil, and you put it in the tap water, and of course it floats to the top. You put it in 11.5 water, and it emulsifies it, and you can see it break up instantly. So that's a very easy test for you to do to see, is your water doing that? And the other waters between 4.5 to 6 is used as a astringent for the skin and for watering plants. So we're using this for all sorts of skin conditions, along with drinking the different levels. Now, really think of the 8.5 to 9.5, rather than on a pH scale, think of them as a power level, because 9.5 is the most power, and doesn't always mean it's going to make 9.5 water. That's just how much power it's going to create to make a very high level of hydrogen, which usually means it might be around 9.5 to 10. 7 is just being filtered, it's not being ionized, and so it can be used for CPAP machines, baby formula, and medications. 2, that we need to be drinking bottled water. It really isn't that much better than tap water. Yes, it's going to have less of those pesticides and chemicals, but it's still very oxidative. And this is Australian stats looking at how much waste we're contributing towards our beautiful country, how much water we're using up to make this and make the plastics to put the water in, how long it would take for that bottle to degrade. Really, the stats are a little bit scary, that how much damage we're doing to our environment. And our current healthcare system, I mean, everyone watching this, thank you so much. You're really here because you care about your health and you're in it to be preventative. So when it comes to the public health, Ben Harris, who's a health policy expert at Victoria University's Mitchell Institute, has been quoted to say, "Our health system is designed to cure, and that means something has to go wrong first." That's not a very good approach. And about a third of chronic disease is preventable, yet the government only spends 1.3% of our health budget on preventing the diseases. Now, the last thing he says worries me a bit. The best thing you can do for your health is be wealthy. Not everyone can do that. I would say, isn't the line of thinking scary? Shouldn't we be thinking, isn't the best thing prevention? That's really what I want to drive home and help everyone really put that as a high priority, is prevention. Because sooner or later, with stats like 47% of us having one or more chronic conditions, it's only a matter of time before someone you love, you respect, or yourself ends up in that category. You don't want to become a stat. There's 4 main conditions I'm going to go over again, just to show you how common these things are and what they're costing us personally as well as a country. So obesity and diabetes. So when it comes to diabetes, 7% of us have diabetes, and that's 280 each day being developed. That's quick, 1 in every 5 minutes. And it's also the families that are being affected by it as well. When it comes to the cost of the person, being obese for a long time and having other health-related challenges can end up costing $6.80 per day, according to all these stats. When looking at diabetes with normal weight, being overweight and obese, you can see it ranges from $6.40 to $8.90 per day. Heart disease, even higher, 18%. That's a heart attack every 12 minutes and 96 strokes every day. I don't even really want to be focusing on negative, because I like to be solution-based and focus on what we want. But again, that's how much it's costing us as a country and per patient. Dementia is probably one of the highest costing and really one of the nastiest conditions there can ever be. There's a huge impact to the family and a big cost to the person and their family when that eventually happens. And when you look at the stats, it's happening a lot. So what can we do about that? We really need to free up some resources so we can convert that to spending it on our health instead. So that's just changing our behavior. So the cost of bottled water at the moment is $2.75 per litre. And again, that's the stat down there, the reference. So looking at how much water do we need to be drinking, most patients don't know. So it's actually between 30 to 40 mil per body kilo. So if we, let's say, base it on 33, For someone who weighs 70, that's 2.3 liters per day. If you're 90, 3 liters. Now, if you were to try and say, okay, I'm going to try and drink all that through bottled water, you're using 1,095 bottles a year, costing $3,000. You may not do that. You might, do half of that and then buy water in bulk. Usually that's even worse water that's in non-BPA free plastic. Now, when we're looking at the cost of coffee, $4.18 for coffee. And if you were to look at a family and average out over the week, if we just said one per day, what's the cost of that for that family? $1,500 a year, or two, double that to $3,000 a year, a family would spend on coffee. And again, you're drinking that because you're fatigued, you need that boost. You can do that through becoming toxic free and drinking hydrogen. Now, if you look at the cost of water as a family, if you were to try and do that through drinking bottled water, that's how much it would cost based on 2 adults and 1 child, let alone how many bottles of waste that we're producing. So can we really afford not to do anything about it? And this is a quick recap. So they're the stats of how much it costs on average for those conditions. When looking at household chemicals and converting them over, that's approximately what we're going to be saving per day. And if you were to see how much we're saving per year, it starts to add up as we swap our household chemicals, our bottled water, and a coffee per year. It really adds up thousands of dollars. So when we're looking at the base model that I showed you before, that's $2.80 per day over 3 years. Now the highest, or the top of the level is $6.40 per day. So when you take that into perspective of how much the conditions are costing us per day if we get to that, and what we're already spending on water and coffee, if you just swapped 1 bottle of water per day, the base model becomes 5 cents saving per day. And that's not taking into consideration swapping the chemicals over. This is just 1 bottle of water. The coffee, you're saving $1.38 on the basic model, and you're saving 5 cents on the top of the line model. Now, when it comes to let's go back again. With the water, you're saving 5 cents on the basic model, and you're bringing the cost of that $6.40 down to $3.65 per day. For the coffee, if you were to remove 1 coffee per day, you're bringing down the cost of the JR2 to $1.38 saving, and you're bringing down the $6.40 cost to $2.22 per day. And again, this is just for 3 years. After that, you can see how much it's costing per litre based on having 17 litres of it per day. Now, it's interesting the way psychology works, and when you really start to talk to thousands of people and you're helping them break past their own objections and excuses that we naturally have, the first response is, oh, I've got to talk to someone about it. I've got to do my own research. Even after someone like me has gone and done 40, 50 hours of research, 10 years experience, that's our natural response. Now, when you sit down with the person and say, tell me what it's really about, they might even say, okay, to be honest, what I really mean by that is, can I find a better deal? Can I verify what you're saying? Can I get it secondhand, or can I get a cheaper product, an alternative? So I spent a little bit of time, not really that much. I could spend a long time on that, but I won't, because it's more about education tonight or today. And so when looking for cheaper alternatives, I just didn't find everything that ticked all the boxes. I didn't find a machine that was able to produce the high level of hydrogen, make that 2.5 disinfectant water, and the pesticide removal 11.5 water. I couldn't find one that did all that and had all the accolades of the company that I use. Now, if you did not worry about all those things and you just got one that was half the price, after 3 years, will you think, I'm glad I saved $1 per day? Or will you think, I really just should have done it properly the first time, and at 50 cents $1 per day is not that big a deal. I can work out how to make that happen. Now, with secondhand, you can get really good secondhand bargains on many things in life. But when it comes to your health, a water ionizer is something you've got to take care of, like anything that you should buy. You've got to take care of it. This is an example of someone who does not take care of it. And many people aren't even using the machine properly, and they're not even maintaining it, and that's why they're selling it. because they didn't use it properly. They may not have got a good result from it because they didn't use it properly and they didn't look after it. And you don't want to be buying someone else's problems. The great thing about buying it new, the company recognizes the idea on the machine, and it says, for your family, for $40 once a year, you can send it back to us. We're going to open up these plates and make them as brand new as possible and rejuvenate them so you can continue to use this machine for 15, 20 years, as much as possible, as long as you can maintain it. I actually spoke with the company and said, one of the guys that works there for 17 years says we are still seeing some of the original machines back in 2003 come in for servicing. So that's just a testimony to like how long these machines are working for. Now, cost versus price, this is something else psychologically that, again, we are all conditioned to think kind of the wrong way. The initial cost, some people think, okay, wow, even after they just understood everything that we've gone through tonight. But think of the cost versus price. The price is the initial payment that might stop you, but the initial price is really going to, over the long run, turn into lifelong value. So here's an analogy, whether it be hiking boots, a really nice, good quality car seat, pram, handbag, whatever you value, think about spending a lot of money on it. And then think about getting a cheaper version of that. If that particular item, for me, let's say hiking boots, lasted for 10 plus years, how long do you think a $30 pair of hiking boots are going to last? I was hiking Mount Warning and a friend's sole of her shoe came off and we had to use her shoelace to tie the sole back on the shoe and walk down a 1,000-meter high mountain. So do you think that she was glad she saved the money buying that $30 pair of shoes? When it comes to your health, definitely not. And so again, this is the typical cost of how much the machine's going to run us to do all those things to make us as toxic free as possible. So that is it. I really hope you got good value from that, and you can immediately start looking at your household chemicals and your personal care, start making changes, be aware of what you're drinking, have a greater impact for the environment, and look at, can we seriously make a change for our family where we can use a machine like this? So please contact myself or whoever showed you this. And I can't wait for you to make an informed decision. Join our community with like-minded people. Our aim is to create a toxic-free place, a better environment, a healthier you and your family. And we look forward to helping, sharing our stories with you and enjoying a healthy journey together. So thank you very much and take care.